Navigating the modern dating scene is like stepping into a whirlwind of expectations, emotions, and uncertainties. From swiping through profiles to navigating the complexities of communication and finance, each aspect brings its own challenges and rewards. Whether you're diving into the world of dating apps or meeting someone through friends, the journey is filled with stories of frustration, excitement, and growth. Let's explore these tales from the streets, where personal experiences shed light on the highs and lows of modern romance. Lies and deceptive behavior. So let me tell you about this guy, Jake. We met at a party and he seemed like the real deal. He was charming, funny, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only one in the room. We exchanged numbers and things kicked off from there. We started hanging out, going on dates, and it felt like we were really clicking. Jake told me he was single and looking for something serious. He seemed so genuine, talking about his plans for the future and how he wanted to settle down. I was all in. I even introduced him to some of my friends, and they thought he was great too. Everything seemed perfect. But then, weird things started happening. He'd cancel plans last minute with vague excuses, like work emergency or family stuff. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone's busy, right? But it started happening more and more. One day I was at his place and he got this phone call. He stepped outside to take it, which felt kinda off. I decided to do some digging. One night, I checked his social media and something felt off. His profiles were pretty locked down, and he didn't post much, but I found an old tagged photo that led me to another account. It was a woman's profile, and she had tons of pictures with Jake, captioned with things like, "My love and our anniversary." My heart sank. I confronted him about it the next time we met. I asked straight up, "Who's this woman in the photos with you?" He tried to play it off, saying she was just a friend, but the dates on the photos didn't add up. They were recent. I could see the panic in his eyes as he realized he was caught. Finally, he admitted it. He was still with her, living this double life. I felt so betrayed. All the things he told me, all the future plans we made, were all lies. I was devastated. I couldn't believe I fell for his crap. After that, I cut all ties with Jake. It took me a while to trust anyone again. The lies and deceptive behavior really messed with my head. It's hard to shake off that feeling of being played. Now, I'm way more cautious and don't take everything at face value. If someone seems too good to be true, I dig a little deeper. No more getting burned by lies. Hookup culture and quick flings. So, let me tell you about this phase I went through with hookup culture. After breaking up with my long-term girlfriend, I decided to dive into the dating scene again. I downloaded a bunch of dating apps and started swiping. I figured I'd see what was out there, have some fun, and not take things too seriously. At first, it was kinda exciting. I matched with a lot of people, and the conversations were flirty and fun. Everyone seemed to be on the same page. Just looking for a good time, nothing too serious, I started going on dates, and most of them ended the same way. A few drinks, some laughs, and then back to someone's place. One night I met this girl named Emily. She was gorgeous, funny, and we hit it off right away. We went to a bar, had a few drinks, and the chemistry was on fire. By the end of the night, we ended up at her apartment. It was a wild night, and in the morning, we said our goodbyes with no strings attached. I thought, this is great, no drama, just fun. But after a while, it started to get old. I was meeting new people every week, but nothing ever went beyond a few nights of fun. It felt shallow. I'd have these amazing nights, but then I'd go home and feel kind of empty. One hookup in particular made me rethink everything. I met this girl, Rachel, at a friend's party. We clicked instantly and ended up back at her place. But after the initial excitement, I realized we had nothing in common. The next morning, the awkward small talk was unbearable. We both knew it was just a one-time thing, and we left it at that. I started noticing a pattern. No real connections, just quick flings that left me feeling more alone. I remember talking to my buddy about it. He was all about the hookup scene, but even he admitted it gets old. It's fun at first, he said, but after a while you start craving something real. You know? That hit me hard. I realized I wanted more than just physical connections. I missed the emotional intimacy of a real relationship. So I decided to take a break from the apps and focus on myself. I started doing things I enjoyed and met people through hobbies and mutual friends instead. It wasn't as fast-paced as the hookup scene, but it felt more meaningful. I learned that while hookup culture can be fun, it's not for everyone, and it's okay to want something deeper. Looking back, those quick flings taught me a lot about what I really want in a relationship. I'm more selective now, looking for someone I can connect with on more than just a physical level. The thrill of the hookup scene was exciting, but in the end, it's the deeper connections that really matter. Online dating fatigue. Man, let me tell you about my experience with online dating. After my last relationship ended, I thought I'd give the dating apps a shot. Everyone was on them, so I figured, why not? I downloaded a few and got to swiping. At first, it was kind of fun. I'd match with people, start chatting, and sometimes even go on dates. But after a while, it all started to feel like a grind. Every night, I'd find myself glued to my phone, swiping through endless profiles. It was like a part-time job. You're swiping left, swiping right, trying to craft the perfect opening message that'll stand out. You get a match, you chat for a bit, and maybe set up a date. But most of the time, those dates went nowhere. I remember one date with this girl, Sarah. We'd been messaging for a week, and it seemed like we had a lot in common. We decided to meet up for coffee. I got there early, nervous but excited. When she walked in, it was clear she wasn't as excited as I was. We chatted for a bit, but the conversation was forced. There was no spark. We finished our coffee, said our goodbyes, and I knew I'd never hear from her again. It was just another dead-end date. This kept happening. Match after match. Date after date. Nothing seemed to click. Some people were cool, but it felt like we were all just going through the motions. I'd spend hours swiping and chatting, only to end up on awkward dates that felt more like job interviews than romantic encounters. One night, I matched with this girl, Emily. She seemed amazing. Funny, smart, beautiful. We messaged back and forth for days, and I started to get my hopes up. We finally set up a date. We went out for drinks, and it was fine. Not terrible, but not great either. It felt like we were both just trying to force something that wasn't there. I started to feel drained. The excitement of matching and chatting wore off, and it just felt like a chore. I'd get home from work, open the app, and it felt like a never-ending cycle of disappointment. Swiping through profiles, sending messages, and getting ghosted or ending up on another lackluster date. It was exhausting. I realized I was spending more time on my phone than actually enjoying life. My friends noticed too. They'd joke about how I was always swiping, but I could tell they were worried. One night, my buddy Chris sat me down and said, "Dude, you gotta take a break. You're burning out." That hit me hard. I decided to delete the apps for a while and focus on other things. I started hanging out with friends more, picking up new hobbies, and just living my life. It was a relief. I didn't miss the constant swiping and messaging. I felt lighter, less stressed. Eventually, I met someone through mutual friends in a totally natural way. No swiping, no apps, just a real connection. It made me realize that while online dating can work for some, it's not the only way to meet people. And sometimes, stepping back and taking a break is the best thing you can do for yourself. Online dating fatigue and ghosting. So, I was deep in the online dating scene, swiping left and right every night, trying to find someone cool to hang with. I matched with this girl, Lisa, and things seemed great right off the bat. She was funny, had a killer smile, and we had a lot in common. We started texting every day, and the conversation flowed so easily. It felt like we were really clicking. After a couple of weeks of solid texting, we decided to meet up. We went to this chill bar downtown, had a few drinks, and talked for hours. It felt like a perfect date. She laughed at my jokes, and we had a great time. When the night ended, we hugged, and she said she'd love to see me again. I was hyped. The next day, we're back to our usual texting. She sent me a good morning message, and I thought, this is going somewhere. We made plans to meet up again that weekend, but then something weird happened. A couple of days before our next date, she started replying slower. Her texts went from full sentences to one-word answers. I didn't think much of it at first, but then she didn't reply to one of my messages. I thought maybe she was busy. But a day went by, then 2, then 3. Nothing. I sent her a couple more texts, trying to keep it casual, but she never replied. It was like she vanished into thin air. No explanation, no goodbye, just straight up ghosted. I was left hanging, trying to figure out what went wrong. Did I say something? Did she meet someone else? It was frustrating and confusing. I replayed our conversations in my head looking for clues, but there was nothing that made sense. It was like she flipped a switch and decided to cut me off without any warning. This wasn't the first time I got ghosted, but it still sucked. It messes with your head, you know? You start doubting yourself. wondering if you're doing something wrong. It added to the whole online dating fatigue. Swiping through endless profiles, sending messages, getting a match, and then getting ghosted. It felt like a vicious cycle. Eventually, I got tired of it all. The constant swiping, the brief connections, and the ghosting. It was draining. I decided to take a break from the apps. I deleted them and focused on other things. Hanging out with friends, hitting the gym, picking up some hobbies. It felt good to disconnect from the endless search for a match. After a while, I met someone in a more natural way, through a mutual friend at a party. It was a breath of fresh air. No swiping, no ghosting, just a real connection. It made me realize that while online dating can be convenient, it's not the only way to meet people. And sometimes stepping away from the apps is the best thing you can do for your sanity. Inconsistent communication. So I met this guy named Alex on one of the dating apps. At first, things were awesome. We hit it off right away, texting each other all day and night. He'd send me cute good morning messages, ask about my day, and we'd joke around a lot. Felt like we were building something real. We even made plans to hang out that weekend, and I was pretty excited. The first few dates were great. We went out for dinner, checked out a cool art exhibit, and even had a movie night at his place. It felt like everything was going smoothly. But then, out of nowhere, things started to get weird. One day he was all over me, texting constantly, making plans for our next date, and being super sweet. The next day, he was barely responding. I'd send him a message, and it would take hours for him to reply, sometimes even a full day. When he did respond, it was short and vague, nothing like the long, fun conversations we had before. I tried not to overthink it, telling myself he was probably just busy with work or something. But it kept happening. One day, he'd be warm and attentive, and the next, he'd be cold and distant. It was driving me crazy. I started to doubt myself, wondering if I did something wrong, or if he was losing interest. I'd replay our conversations in my head, looking for clues. When we'd finally hang out again, he'd be back to his charming self, making me feel like everything was fine. But then the cycle would repeat. Hot one day, cold the next. I remember one weekend, we had plans to go hiking. He seemed really into it, texting me all excited about the trail we'd picked. But the morning of the hike, he didn't show up. No text, no call, nothing. I waited for hours, feeling like a fool. Later that evening, he finally messaged me with a lame excuse about his phone dying and getting caught up with something. It didn't add up, but I let it slide, hoping things would get better. But they didn't. The inconsistent communication continued. It was like he had one foot in and one foot out. I was getting tired of the emotional roller coaster. My friends noticed too, and kept telling me to move on, but it was hard. I really liked him, and kept hoping he'd get more consistent. Eventually, I decided to confront him. I told him straight up how his hot and cold behavior was messing with my head. He apologized and said he didn't realize it was affecting me so much. He promised to do better, but nothing changed. The inconsistency continued, and I couldn't take it anymore. I finally made the tough decision to cut things off. It sucked because I really liked him, but I knew I deserved better than the constant guessing game. After that, I felt a sense of relief. No more waiting around for his messages, no more confusion. It was tough, but I realized that consistent communication is key, and I wasn't going to settle for anything less. Unrealistic expectations. So, I was really into this girl named Jessica. We met through a mutual friend at a party, and it was like sparks flew instantly. She was gorgeous, smart, and had this amazing laugh. We exchanged numbers, and I thought, this could be something special. We started texting and going out on dates. Everything felt perfect at first. She'd talk about her dream guy, and I'd nod along, thinking I could be that for her. She had this whole checklist in her head. Ambitious, funny, romantic, adventurous. It was a lot to live up to, but I was smitten, so I tried my best. Our first few dates were like scenes out of a movie. Fancy dinners, long walks, deep conversations, but soon cracks started to show. One time, we went on a hike, and I got us a little lost. She was visibly annoyed, saying her ideal guy would never get lost. I brushed it off, but it stung a bit. Another time, we went to this new restaurant she wanted to try. The food was okay, but I wasn't really into it. She seemed disappointed, like I wasn't living up to her expectations of being the perfect adventurous foodie. It felt like every little thing was a test, and I was failing. On the flip side, I had my own unrealistic expectations. I wanted everything to be smooth and perfect, just like those first few dates. If we had a disagreement or she pointed out something she didn't like, I'd get frustrated. I expected her to be understanding all the time, to always see things my way. But real relationships aren't like that. They take work, compromise, and patience. One day, things came to a head. We were supposed to go to a concert, and I messed up the tickets, getting the wrong date. She was so mad, saying a perfect guy wouldn't make such a dumb mistake. I snapped back, telling her she expected too much and that nobody's perfect. We had a big argument, and it ended with her saying, maybe we just weren't right for each other. That night, I thought a lot about our relationship. I realized we both had set these high expectations that were impossible to meet. She wanted a flawless guy, and I wanted everything to be effortlessly perfect. But real relationships take time and effort. People have flaws, and things don't always go smoothly. We talked the next day, and I tried to explain how I felt. She admitted she had been too hard on me, and that she was used to this idea of a perfect relationship from movies and social media. I told her I also needed to be more patient and not expect everything to be perfect all time. In the end, we decided to give it another shot, but with more realistic expectations. We knew it wouldn't be easy, but we wanted to try. We agreed to be more understanding of each other's flaws and not to expect perfection. It was a learning experience for both of us. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. And that's what mattered. We both learned that unrealistic expectations can ruin something good if you let them. Real relationships take time, effort, and a lot of patience. Nobody's perfect, and that's okay. Superficial judgments. Man, dating apps can be rough. I remember when I first got into them, I thought it'd be a fun way to meet people. I signed up, made a profile, and started swiping, but I quickly realized it was all about looks. If you didn't have that model-like appearance, you'd get overlooked, no matter how cool or interesting you were. I'm no Brad Pitt, but I like to think I'm a decent-looking guy. I've got a good sense of humor, and I'm passionate about my hobbies. But on these apps, it felt like none of that mattered. You're judged in a split second based on your photos. Swipe left, swipe right, that's it. One night, I matched with this girl named Rachel. She was stunning, and I was pretty excited. We started chatting, and I tried to show off my personality, cracking jokes and talking about our shared interests. But her responses were short and seemed disinterested. I tried to steer the conversation toward getting to know each other, but she kept it surface level. We finally set up a date to meet for coffee. I was nervous but hopeful. When she walked in, it was clear she was only there because she thought I looked good in my photos. We sat down, and the conversation was painfully awkward. I'd talk about my interests, and she'd just nod, barely engaging. It felt like she was waiting for me to say something impressive or look a certain way. Halfway through, she checked her phone and said she had to go. I knew it was an excuse. She wasn't into me because I didn't fit whatever perfect image she had in her head. It sucked because I felt like I wasn't being judged for who I am, but just for how I look. So this wasn't a one-time thing. I'd get matches and the same pattern would repeat. If I didn't fit their idea of the perfect guy, I'd get ghosted, or the conversations would fizzle out. It felt like a never-ending cycle of superficial judgments. I started doubting myself, wondering if I wasn't attractive enough or if there was something wrong with me. It got to a point where I was about to give up on dating apps altogether. But then I decided to change my approach. Instead of trying to impress with my looks or worrying about fitting a certain image, I focused on being genuine. I updated my profile to reflect my real interests and personality, not just the highlights. I matched with this girl named Megan. She wasn't a supermodel, but she had a kind smile and seemed genuine. We started chatting, and it was like a breath of fresh air. She was interested in getting to know the real me, not just my looks. We talked about everything, our favorite movies, music, even our embarrassing moments. We met up for a casual coffee date, and it was great. No awkwardness, just two people connecting over shared interests. She didn't care about the superficial stuff. She liked me for who I was, and it felt amazing. That experience taught me a lot. Dating apps can be tough because they make it all about looks, but if you stay true to yourself and don't let superficial judgments get you down, you can find someone who appreciates the real you. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Fear of commitment. So, I was seeing this guy named Mike for a few months. We met at a friend's barbecue, and he seemed like a cool dude. We started hanging out more, grabbing drinks, catching movies, and just chilling. It was fun, and I thought we had something good going. But after a while, I wanted to take things to the next level. I mean, we were spending so much time together, and I really liked him. I wanted to see where this could go. But every time I brought up anything about being serious or exclusive, he'd dodge the topic. He'd say stuff like, "Let's just enjoy the moment," or "Why put labels on it?" At first, I tried to go along with it. I figured maybe he just needed some time, but it started to bug me. One night, we were out at this nice restaurant, having a great time. I decided to bring it up again. I asked him where he saw us going, if he thought we had a future together. He got this nervous look and mumbled something about not wanting to rush things. It was frustrating. I was investing my time and emotions, hoping for something real, and he just wanted to keep it casual. It felt like a waste of time every time I tried to get a straight answer. He'd change the subject or make jokes to deflect. It was like he enjoyed dating me, but was terrified of any serious commitment. One weekend, he invited me to a party with his friends. I thought maybe this was a good sign. Like, he was finally ready to take a step forward. But at the party, he introduced me as a friend and spent most of the night chatting with everyone else. I felt like I was just there as an accessory, not someone he really cared about. The breaking point came when we were supposed to go on a weekend trip together. I was excited, thinking it'd be a chance for us to bond and talk about our future. But a few days before the trip, he canceled, saying he needed some me time. That was it for me. I realized he was never going to commit. I confronted him about it, and he finally admitted he wasn't ready for anything serious and didn't know if he ever would be. He liked keeping things light and casual without any strings attached. It hurt to hear that, but at least he was being honest for once. After that, I decided to end things. It wasn't easy because I really liked him, but I knew I deserved more than just casual dating with no future. It was tough because I felt like I'd wasted months on someone who was never going to give me what I wanted. It made me more cautious moving forward. I learned to be upfront about what I'm looking for and to recognize the signs of someone with a fear of commitment. It's frustrating to meet people who only want to keep things casual when you're looking for something real. But it's better to know early on and not waste time on someone who isn't on the same page. Fear of commitment is a real thing, and it can be a deal breaker if you're looking for something serious. It's important to know what you want and not settle for less. This video is for informational purposes only. We're sharing general tips on conflict resolution based on common experiences. It's not professional advice. Always seek a qualified professional for serious issues. Viewer discretion is advised. If you enjoyed this video and found our tips helpful, make sure to smash that like button. Your likes help us reach more people and spread the love. Got friends who could use some real talk about dating single moms? Share this video with them. Sharing is caring, and you never know who might need this advice. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. We've got a lot more street smart dating tips and real-life advice coming your way. Join our community and let's navigate this dating journey together. Peace out and much love.